The world's ancient cities still contain many surprises and treasures, hidden from view for centuries. Now, with the latest scanning technology, I'm going to reveal the secrets of 3 of the most fascinating cities on Earth. Cairo, the gateway to Egypt's ancient wonders. Athens, the birthplace of democracy. And in this programme, Istanbul, the dramatic crossroads between Asia and Europe.
For over 2,500 years, the East has met the West here in Istanbul, the strategic mid-ground fought over by some of the world's mightiest empires.
Romans, Christian Crusaders and Muslim Turks all battled to control this place. It was once the biggest city on Earth.
Okay.
But many of its ancient treasures are invisible. Buried deep beneath the surface of the city.
I imagine rats.
Be careful.
Whoa!
I'll be working with our 3D scanning team to explore palaces, fortresses, and aqueducts. We'll uncover the forgotten Roman chariot track.
This was the track right here.
Yes.
Reveal the genius of the city's ancient engineers.
Incredible.
And explore a masterpiece of Islamic innovation. And I'll be using virtual reality to see the city in a totally new way.
Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is Istanbul, as even the locals may never have seen it before.
Welcome to Invisible Istanbul. Istanbul. The bridge between 2 continents. And I'm arriving on the mighty waterway that put this city on the map.
I'm on the Bosphorus, one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Behind me to the north is the Black Sea, and in front of me is the Mediterranean. On my left is Asia, and on my right, Europe. People coming and going from every point of the compass converge here. And straddling this waterway is the city of Istanbul.
Istanbul's strategic position made it irresistible to the great powers of the ancient world. 2,500 years ago, it was the Greek town of Byzantium. The Romans transformed it into the city of Constantinople. Then in 1453, it became the Islamic city of Istanbul.
As Napoleon put it, if the world were a single state, then this city would be its capital.
Istanbul's tempestuous history has created one of the most vibrant cities on the planet. There's evidence of that turmoil all over the city. Even the city's most famous places have their battle scars. The Hagia Sophia, or Church of the Holy Wisdom of Christ, was built by the Romans. For hundreds of years, it was the biggest cathedral in the world. Modern buildings often only last for decades. I'm going to find out how the Hagia Sophia is still standing after 1,500 years.
The height of this dome, the sense of air and space is just extraordinary. When it was built, the 6th century AD, this was the tallest dome in the world, 55 meters above my head. And the people of the time talked about the way that it seemed to reach for the very sky itself. This building dominated the landscape of 6th century Constantinople and left its people in awe.
Two previous versions of the Hagia Sophia were destroyed by fire. So the Emperor Justinian made this one into a massive statement of Roman power and endurance. The dome of the Hagia Sophia has faced earthquakes, riots, sieges, and conquest. Our scanning team, led by architect Matt Shaw, is trying to find out how it survived.
Matt, good to see you. How are you doing? Good to see you. Hi, Tom. Nice to see you. Great to see the scanner is already in action. Huh?
Yep, we've been going all morning.
So are we going to be able to get an answer to the question, that always strikes me here, which is, how is this building still standing?
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. So the scanner is firing away over 1 million points a second. We're going to create a model of this entire space that has over 1 billion points in it.
Wow, so we're going to be able to visualize this whole thing, this enormous, enormous structure, and maybe unravel the mysteries.
That's the plan.
Well, we've been talking big, but if I can steal you away from Tom for a second, if he's in charge.
He's got it under control.
I've got something small to show you, which is my favourite thing in this entire place.
Okay, let's go.
After 1,500 years, the history of Justinian's cathedral has become entangled with legend.
Justinian spared no expense on this building. He had stuff brought in from Africa, from Asia, and across the Mediterranean. And these are his doors. These are the emperor's doors. And the story goes that they're actually made from bits of Noah's Ark.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, what he wanted to be was the new Solomon,
Yeah.
Builder of the first temple of Jerusalem. And supposedly, the story goes that when he walked into this place, when it was finished, he said, I have outdone thee, Solomon. But this is what I came to show you. This is the important bit.
This hole.
This hole, right?
Okay.
And the story goes, these are the emperor's doors. This is where the guards stood.
Okay.
And these holes in the ground are
Years of footsteps.
years and years, hours and hours of the guys standing here having guard. So if you want to be kind of in the shoes of the people from the past, right, you can't get much better than a place like this.
It kind of reminds me of the pacing around the scanner that we do, our little circles around and around.
On that note, I probably should let you get back to it,
Probably
right?
should.
All right, I'm going to head off this way.
Thank you for sharing.
Matt, good to see you. Good luck.
In the 15th century, the Hagia Sophia was converted into a mosque, and later these minarets were added.
It was a church for just over 900 years, and it was a mosque for just under 500, and now it's been a museum for just over 80.
Its strategic position between Europe and Asia has placed it at the centre of a religious and political tug-of-war that continues to this day. The Hagia Sophia embodies the city's turbulent history.
Istanbul will always be pulled between East and West. It will always have to make a choice as a result of geopolitics and internal change.
To get evidence of how history has changed the city, Matt and his team are going to create a 3D map of the heart of Istanbul.
We're going to employ a process called photogrammetry. Taking thousands and thousands of individual photographs. And we pump all of those images in, and these are very clever algorithms. And we're able to compute a really, really accurate 3D model of Istanbul.
The model will show us a city built, destroyed and transformed over the last 2 millennia. And by scanning the Hagia Sophia inside and out, we'll discover how it too has survived against the odds. And the first scans are coming in now.
Matt, how are you doing?
How you doing, Michael? Good to see you.
Can't wait to see Istanbul in all her glory.
There she is.
There we go. So this is our photogrammetry model.
Wow. Unbelievable.
And at the very centre of all of that as well, Hagia Sophia. And there it is. And the really interesting stuff comes where we get ourselves in.
We just went inside the building. Now that's something, I mean, you can't do that in real life, can you? You can't fly through a wall whenever you fancy it.
Just incredible.
But what do you think the scans have been able to reveal that we couldn't possibly have known when we were there?
Well, I mean, even inside the scans, your eye is always drawn up to the dome here. And if we start to navigate our way up there, actually, immediately we start to see some slightly strange inconsistencies. So the dome is not circular anymore. You get these lumps and bumps in, and what that is, we're seeing the effects of earthquakes over the years.
But I mean, it looks as clear as day on that scan that there's a big bump area at the top and at the bottom, but that wasn't visible to us at all when we were there in reality.
No, I think it's not filling in any of the gaps that you do with your eye. And actually, this gets more revealing when we start to take ourselves outside. Just skin the building, yeah. So, what we're left with here is just the inner skin of the dome. And check out some of these lumps and bumps. Yeah, and they're not just flaws as well. I mean, there's an amazing amount of ingenuity and solution that's on display here as well. So you're faced with these incredible situations, earthquakes, trying to pull this building apart. So 26 years after it was first constructed, the dome collapsed. One of the first techniques that was used when they rebuilt this dome was this series of ribs that you can see here, taking the weight down to this circular beam. And then these crucial triangular structural pieces, these are called pendentives. And these transfer the weight from the circle at the bottom of the dome to 4 points. And they turn this structure from a spherical structure into a square structure. So they take that load in 4 positions down to the ground here.
When you're there in the building, you don't think about any of that because your eye is completely taken to the beautiful angels.
It feels like the angels are literally holding up heaven, aren't they? They're holding up the roof.
Yeah, and if I actually just pull us back outside the building here, I can actually slice this building up. So we have our dome here, we also have these 2 big half domes on the side here. And what that does is expand that space out. So when you walk inside, you really feel this enormous volume. But even these clever structural systems weren't quite enough. So over the years, a series of buttresses have been added to every side.
And they're holding it all together, right?
Yeah, they're stopping things from splaying out.
Our scans can also give us a better idea of what the building looked like before the minarets were added in the 15th and 16th centuries.
I mean, that makes this scanning such a fantastic tool, doesn't it, for historians or architects or engineers. It's giving you the life story of this building with all the lumps and bumps and wrinkles that brings.
The Roman city of Constantinople was named after its founding emperor, Constantine, and the Hagia Sophia was its spiritual heart. The emperor's seat of earthly power was built right next to the cathedral, the Great Palace, a vast luxury complex in the heart of the city. This was home to Rome's Byzantine emperors for nearly 700 years. Today, people drive past the old palace walls without a second thought. But they were once one of Constantinople's glories.
This, well, rather romantic ruin is the Palace of Bukoleon. And it was part of the great complex of palaces here in Istanbul. And when it was built in the 5th century, the sea came right up here. So this was the summer residence, the seaside annex, if you will, of the imperial family. And when it was built, they said that it was designed to evoke the admiration both of strangers and of their own subjects. And I can buy that. This place had 500 rooms, all with gold mosaics. I'd be pretty gobsmacked. And yet today, well, that is the best bit that's left.
I've been told I can find a way into the Bukoleon Palace through here.
This feels like something entirely sort of dystopian. There's a train line over here. I'm in somebody's garden. And here, we're back in the palace. It's like nature has completely taken over this world. But we have to imagine what this place would have been like in its glory. This, a grand, echoing stateroom with the marble, the mosaics, the treasures and statues beyond measure. And gorgeous, huge windows looking out to sea. Must have been quite a sight to behold.
Our graphic gives us an idea of the grandeur of this magnificent building, just one part of the great palace complex.
Günaydın. Nasılsın? Yes. Can I have one?
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
The Emperor Constantine moved the capital of the Roman Empire here in the 4th century.
Yes.
And he wanted to make a city to outshine Rome.
Çok teşekkür ederim. Yes.
He went on a building spree. Churches, palaces, public baths, and a library. And within a century, the population soared. From 20,000 to 200,000.
The Romans were brilliant at creating public places where the whole city could come together. Everyone from the emperor downwards. Think the Colosseum in Rome. And here in Constantinople, that place was the Hippodrome, the chariot racing track. And I've come to meet someone who knows this place inside out. Karim, günaydın.
Hi Michael, günaydın.
Nasılsın?
İyiyim, teşekkür ederim.
Shall we explore? I can't wait to find out more about this.
It's my pleasure.
Only these walls remain, but there's enough to see how impressive the Hippodrome must have been.
Where are we now?
Yeah, we are now in front of the monumental facade of the Hippodrome's curved ends called Sphendon.
Would there have been entrances this end?
Yeah, here, look. You can here see the vaulted archways forming the entrances and exits now walled up.
The Hippodrome once dominated ancient Constantinople. This was the social centre of the city, holding twice as many spectators as Rome's Colosseum, and even more than today's Wembley Stadium. But little remains of the racetrack.
Can we get a sense of what this place would have been like on race day? Where would the spectators have been sitting? Where would the chariots have been racing?
So we can estimate that the road running around today's square was almost perfectly following the line of chariot racing track.
This was the track right here?
Yes.
So we have to imagine the chariots coming right at us now at full pelt. I think let's move out of the way quickly.
That's fantastic.
But that sense of what, up to 100,000 people, something like that, chanting, screaming.
Yes, you're right.
Kind of all cheering on their
Yes.
teams. Wow. What a place. And the emperor watching over it all. Huh?
Yeah, it was. And I've got something else to show you in the underground.
So, Kerem, where are we going?
Yeah, you will see the substructure of the Hippodrome, Michael.
We're going in here.
Yes?
I guess this is a place the public don't get very often, right?
No. Come, follow me.
Okay. Oh, now I see why you told us to bring torches.
Yeah.
Wow, what a space.
What do you think?
Amazing. Where are we?
This is the substructure of the seating.
So we're underneath all those spectators cheering away.
Yes, exactly.
And wow, there's tunnels. You go this way?
Yeah.
There's tunnels that way? My God, it's a rabbit warren down here.
Yeah, you better follow me.
Okay, I'll definitely follow you. I mean, I guess we have to imagine people were getting to their seats, all the services.
Yes.
And what else happened down here, do you think?
There's also a story about these concealed space used as a prison or for the execution.
Wow.
For instance, we know from the sources that Justinian II was tortured by his rebellious subject in 7th century. It's what happened probably here. To repay his despotic rule, they sliced off his nose and cut out his tongue. And after banishing for 10 years, he returned.
He returned?
Having to hide behind a solid golden mask, replacing his nose, he continued to ruling over the population until his own army turned on him. This time they cut off his head to make sure that he wouldn't come back.
Amazing. And what's through here? My God, you can go. There's tunnels, there's ways here. There's a doorway here, Karen. What's
Yeah, let's see it yourself.
through here?
Go on, go ahead.
I'll go ahead, shall I? Okay. Wow, okay. Karim, I think we're going to need a lot more gear. Well, don't I feel good? To be honest, I feel like a trussed-up chicken, but I think I'm ready. Karim?
Okay, let's go.
Okay, let's do this.
Kerim is going to show me how the Hippodrome was cleverly adapted to help the city survive.
Clip on. Is it cold? Whoa, okay.
Be careful.
Okay. Yeah, the steps are slippy. It feels like there's quite a few rocks under our feet, but... Wow, this place is huge.
Yes.
It's extraordinary. But how are we suddenly in such an enormous space?
Yeah, because of this vaulted chamber was converted into a cistern probably in the 6th century.
So they completely just repurposed this entire
Yes, exactly.
area.
Yeah.
Wow.
The city is surrounded by the sea, but it has very few sources of fresh water. Saving every drop was essential. So the Romans transformed the Hippodrome's passageways into this massive reservoir. This vaulted space alone could hold 10 million litres to save the city in times of siege or drought. And all thanks to the Roman invention of waterproof cement.
This is the hydraulic plaster, is the waterproof plaster.
It's good plaster. It's still here.
Yeah.
Amazing. How full do you think this place could have been of water when it was in use?
So the levels of the hydraulic plaster here might indicate the maximum storage level for us.
So, I mean, this place could have been absolutely full of water right to the top.
It is possible, yes, and probably connected with the water supply lines of the city. And this was the one of the large cisterns of Constantinople.
This was one of the largest.
Yeah. Actually, we have more than 200 cisterns identified.
These water tanks came in all shapes and sizes. Tiny ones for single families, and massive ones like this for whole neighbourhoods.
And so where would the water here have been going?
This area was the Great Palace of Constantinople. So this was used by the Great Palace. We can keep going till that wall, so it blocks our way, so we cannot continue any further, but the cistern continues that way.
Oh, I see. So the wall goes halfway up, but actually this chamber continues round on the...
It continues,
on
yes.
the other side. So, Karim, what's this channel here curving off to the right?
This might indicate the connection between an Ottoman fountain built in front of the facade. So it was built in the 16th century. then we can say that the cistern was stayed in use at least for 1,000 years, after 6th century.
So it's converted in, the hippodrome's been here since the 1st centuries AD in different forms, converted into a cistern in the 6th century.
Yes.
And still being used as a cistern at least in the 16th century.
Exactly, yes.
1,000 years here of water just kind of around us.
So it also proves the continuous needs of stored water in the city.
Thank you for showing it to me.
You're very welcome, Michael. Let's go back.
As the scan team goes to work inside the hippodrome, Tom also finds it hard going.
We're obviously carrying some extremely expensive equipment. The last thing we wanted to do was fall into that stagnant water that's clearly stood there for years. You do kind of worry about what wildlife could be under your feet. Rats, dead birds, guano all over everything.
Our scans show how a structure built for entertainment was transformed into a life-saving reservoir. Now, it's largely forgotten, except by those who know invisible Istanbul. With a rapidly growing population, improvised water storage wasn't enough. Constantinople used Roman engineering genius on an even grander scale.
There's no better place from which to witness the miracle of Roman hydraulic engineering than right here having a cup of tea, because I am surrounded by an aqueduct. This is the Valens Aqueduct, the major route bringing fresh drinking water into the city. The Romans needed their aqueducts to be as straight and as efficient as possible, and that meant conquering the very landscape. Here we're between two hills, and the Roman solution is to build a bridge between them. So this thing goes 30 meters up into the air and over a kilometer across from one hill to the other. And as a result, even the modern metropolis of Istanbul has to bend around it. Hi, Jim. How are you doing?
The man to tell us about it is Professor James Crow from Edinburgh University.
Better than it looks from down the bottom, actually.
Well, it's wonderful when you get up here, don't worry.
Jim's been mapping the ancient city's water supply system for decades.
Thank you very much. Oh, what a view already. And the sun. Oh,
Welcome to the Great
I might leave the
Bridge.
jacket here. This is fabulous. What a place.
Yep.
Well, Jim, I feel like I'm flying above the streets below us. But this is the aqueduct. Where was the water going?
Well, within this, there are big channels. They're nearly as tall as you, as wide as that, and they carry the water from huge distances to the west of the city, into the city to fill its cisterns and its fountains.
So, Jim, how have you discovered this network?
Well, before we started, we knew there was this very long system outside of the city, but it was over 20 years of field work, looking at old maps, a whole range of things, and then talking to lots of people in villages, having lots of cups of tea, finding out where these structures are and the channels are, because it's a deeply forested area. It's like working in a jungle almost. And suddenly these great bridges will appear out in deep-sided valleys, covered in trees.
I've got an image of Indiana Jones already.
Well, I don't know. It was quite fun to do, but at the same time, we were then able to map the system, project the whole length, and assess how long this system extends into the countryside and away from the city.
And are we thinking about a water system here as sophisticated as that of Rome?
Certainly as sophisticated, and in some ways it surpassed Rome in terms of the engineering skills that were needed. And engineers, modern engineers, when we talk to them about it, are just astonished. They cannot understand how these guys were capable of it.
Our scans help show how the water flowed through two great channels inside the aqueduct bridge. The water went into 209 cisterns across the city. Some improvised, like the one in the Hippodrome, some purpose-built, and some as big as a football pitch. They were fed by 2 aqueducts coming from forest springs up to 200 kilometres away. With over 580 kilometres of channels, this was the longest and most sophisticated water system of the Roman world. So far, our scans have recorded ruins that tell the story of the rise of Constantinople. The ruins of the once glorious Palace of Bucolion also record its decline.
Well, this was once a chapel, and it's now, according to the signs on the walls, the home of Hassan, who's decorated it. Well, it's kind of like my daughter would decorate it, really. It's a home of sorts.
This palace was destroyed when Christians turned on one another. There'd been religious disputes between the Roman Catholic world and the Byzantine Empire for hundreds of years. And in the end, Western Crusaders found Constantinople's riches just too much of a temptation.
This palace was damaged and rebuilt many times in its history, but its final death knell was in 1204, when Western European Crusaders, led by the city of Venice, came here and destroyed the city and took this beautiful place down with them.
The Western invaders stayed in Constantinople for over 50 years. They desecrated Eastern Orthodox churches, destroyed the ancient library, and looted the great palace complex, leaving them in ruins.
The clash between the Eastern and Western wings of Christianity tore Constantinople apart. By the 15th century, Constantinople's population was no more than 70,000 people. Its power, its glory days were behind it. It was a shell.
And it would only get worse. By 1452, the city of Constantinople was all that was left of the Eastern Roman Empire. It was a tiny Christian island surrounded by the Muslim Turks' Ottoman Empire. The Turks had the city at their mercy. With the city surrounded, supplies could only enter by ship. The Turkish leader, Sultan Mehmet, built this fortress to stop them. It guarded the narrowest point on the Bosphorus, less than 800 metres from his fort on the Asian side.
Today, this place is known as Rumeli Hisarı, which means the fortress of the Romans, because we're on the European side, and when Mehmet came and built this fortress, this was Roman land. But its original name is Boğazı. Now that means the cutter of the Bosphorus, the river. But in Turkish, the same word means throat. This place was intended to cut the throat of the Bosphorus and of the people of the city of Constantinople.
The main tower of Rumeli Hisarı fortress was a strategic command post for Mehmet's whole operation. Its secrets are locked away, but local historian Ali Zirek is taking us to see them.
Amazing. Do you have the key?
Yes.
I'm really curious to find out what this tower was used for, and Ali's taking me up to the top to find out.
What a room, what a space, Ali. What went on here, do we know?
Fatih Sultan Mehmet met his generals here.
So we're in a place where Mehmet may have conceived his final plans for taking Constantinople. There's the heavy smell and weight of history in this room. It's extraordinary.
Our scans allow us to really get under the skin of Mehmet's HQ. As we rise through the tower's 7 stories, a war machine of ruthless efficiency is revealed. With walls up to 7 meters thick that protect Mehmet's council chamber, crenulated lookout positions, arrow slits and firing positions, toilets, grain storage, living quarters for up to 400 soldiers, armories bristling with their weapons, a chute to drop boiling oil onto an invader at the front door, and an unrivaled view to guard the narrowest part of the Bosphorus. The tower also holds an ancient remnant of Constantinople's defence.
What is this? Was this the chain across the...
For Golden Horn.
For the Golden Horn?
Yes.
The Golden Horn chain? Wow. My God, it's still so solid. That's incredibly heavy.
About 15 kilograms.
No wonder it worked so well for so long.
This iron chain is the stuff of legend. For centuries, the chain was stretched across the inlet known as the Golden Horn in times of danger. Now it stopped Mehmet's ships from reaching the heart of the city. But
Mehmet had a genius solution. He ordered logs, greased in olive oil, to be laid across the landscape in a road that would allow his ships to be dragged across into the estuary, thus getting around the Great Chain. And on the 22nd of April, 1453, Mehmet's fleet made its way across to take up position to besiege the city of Constantinople.
the Byzantine Christian forces were down to around 5,000 against an Ottoman army of 200,000. The women, children, old and sick took refuge behind the great doors of the Hagia Sophia. For 53 days, Mehmet bombarded the city with some of the most advanced artillery in the world. On the 29th of May, 1453, the legendary walls of Constantinople were finally breached. The invading army closed in on the Hagia Sophia. They smashed down the doors. Mehmet himself lamented the devastation. What a city we have given over to plunder and destruction.
The final metamorphosis of the Roman Empire, the Byzantine world, died less than 50 years before Columbus discovered America. And for the city of Constantinople, a whole new chapter in its history. No longer Constantinople, it was now known as Istanbul, an Islamic city, capital of Mehmet's Ottoman Empire. The East now held sway.
The best place to see how the city changed is back at the Hagia Sophia. The cathedral became a mosque. Over time, minarets were added on each corner. And these enormous panels were erected to spell out the name of Allah, the Prophet Muhammad, and his grandsons. There were more subtle changes too. These mosaic crosses were concealed by Islamic decoration.
But this was by far a more important change. This was the mihrab, and it sits off-centre to the apse behind it for a very good reason, because it points in the direction of Mecca, and thus gives the direction in which the Muslim faithful should pray.
Now an integral part of the Muslim world, the whole city was reborn. Istanbul was transformed into the bustling, energetic place it is today, full of Asian and European influences and tastes.
Now this is balik ekmek. It's a fried fish sandwich, and it's the thing to eat down here at Eminönü near Galata Bridge. And for my money, there's no better place in Istanbul than here to feel the swirling mix of cultures that defines this city that jostles strongly, sometimes as roughly as the waters that run through the heart of the city.
As they developed the city further, the Ottoman Turks drew on the learning of both East and West. Our 3D map shows us one of the greatest Ottoman design innovations: a new mosque to outdo the Hagia Sophia, the Süleymaniye Mosque. Built for Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent in 1557, it remains an island of peace to this day.
People come to mosques, obviously, to pray, but it's also about getting away from the hustle and bustle of the world. And there's something also I absolutely love about this kind of place. It brings together not just people going in to pray, but the whole community. Kids are running around playing with their families. Friends are catching up to have a walk and a talk. This is a place to get a little respite and energy for the soul.
The genius of the Süleymaniye Mosque is found in its grand design and in its smallest detail. Much is invisible, but not to my guide, architectural historian Olcay Aydemir.
Oh, what a door! What an amazing... Oh, Olcay, this is incredible. What a space.
The mosque invite you inside when you come here.
I feel that.
Yes,
I feel that,
yes.
you want
Invites
to move
you,
towards
yes.
the centre of the space, don't you? It's extraordinary. The sense of just volume and air and light in here is just incredible. And Olcay, I've noticed that all of the lighting in here is very low compared to the ceiling. So why? Is there a reason for that?
Yes, of course, it's very high, so there's something to cut this heightness and to feel you good here in the space.
So it's designed to make us again feel
Yes,
more
yes.
comfortable here.
Yes.
And I keep seeing shells.
Yes.
Ostrich eggshells?
Yes, ostrich shells.
Are they just a decoration?
No, it's pretty, but at the same time, drive away the insects, the spiders. Yeah.
Ostrich shells
Yes.
drive away spiders.
Yes.
Brilliant. Now that is a tip for us all at home, right? Everyone needs an ostrich shell in their house.
Yes, very good.
And it's all electric now,
Yes.
but when the mosque was built, this would have been candles.
Candles, oils. It was.
So we have to imagine, what, thousands of glittering
candles,
lights
yes.
keeping this place alive.
Very magical.
And the other thing I was thinking, that if there were candles and oil lamps, there must have been lots of soot produced, and the ceiling must have been black with soot.
And yet the walls and ceiling are pristine. It takes our scans to reveal the mosque's ingenious solution: a ventilation system hidden in the walls. The soot from the lamps was drawn up through concealed funnels into a secret room, where it stuck to the walls and was made into ink for sacred manuscripts. Today, only graffiti remains. Another design secret lies under our feet.
Strong.
Wow. What are these tunnels?
Channels. These are using for humidity, the strong air ventilation. At the same
These
time,
tunnels keep the building well aired today, but they originally brought drinking water to the workers building the mosque. Ingenuity is everywhere. Here, decoration doubles as sound baffling, so that everyone can hear the sermon clearly. The Ottomans matched the grandeur of the Hagia Sophia and took its design and technology to a whole new level. Sultan Suleiman had great ambitions for the people of Istanbul. He created a complex around the mosque to house a hospital, 6 schools, Turkish baths, a traveller's inn, a bakery, and a medical college. His goal was to make the mosque the centre of the city's flourishing society.
Sinan did not only build mosques.
An important part of the mosque complex is the Imaret, or public kitchen.
And I want to show
It
you
fed over 1,000 of the city's poor every day through this tiny hole in the wall.
this source hole is using for giving the meal, and the person who give the meal doesn't see who take the meal. So he can't play favorites. And it's really equality between both of them.
Brilliant. What a brilliant system. So it's a blind transfer. I don't see them, they don't see me.
Yes.
Everyone is equal.
Perfect.
And can I pick it up?
Yes, of course.
How ingenious.
This was a sultan's mosque meant for everyone. Suleiman's kitchen was designed to feed Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike. Today, it's a commercial restaurant. I've seen so many aspects of ancient Istanbul hidden beneath the surface of the city.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to experience it through virtual reality.
It is all green, yeah.
I recognise these. So this is the one-way ticket to Istanbul.
This is your helicopter. In you go.
Wow! Hello, Istanbul.
Here we go.
So this is the view you were getting when you were up in the helicopter?
Exactly. So if we start the Hippodrome...
The back end here, isn't it? And there's where we went into the cistern. There's the staircase. And wow, there we are with all that mucky, dirty, rat-filled water.
And then
we stride across, and then I recognise down here, this is...
there she is.
There she is, Hagia Sophia. And you can see the clear differences between the minarets, all constructed at different times, and then I can hold the dome of Hagia Sophia in my hands.
In we come. And this is a perspective that you'll probably be a little more familiar with, actually.
I am.
And one of the wonderful things we can do here, of course, is start to rise up, so...
What? Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, we're flying through the air. The detail of the roof is beautiful. Oh, my Lord, here comes the roof. Oh, whoa, okay, slow down, slow.
You'll be fine.
We're getting really... Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa.
So here we are.
And there... Oh, my God. We're on the top of the dome.
You are standing on the millimetre-thick skin of the top.
You can just walk.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to walk really gingerly.
Yeah,
Just in
exactly.
case I fall back through.
And there may be some sort of edge anywhere.
And there, God, you can see the lumps and the bumps right there. There's a massive bump.
Yeah.
What? Ah, there we go. You've sent me flying through the air again.
The Hagia Sophia is like this whole city. It's been bashed about, but it's always found a way to survive.
Our journey back down to ground level.
This is extraordinary. Hello.
Istanbul has endured by adapting buildings like the Hippodrome to stay alive through droughts and war, and kept fresh water flowing to everyone through its elegant aqueducts. This is a city built upon layer after layer of history and culture. And the people of Istanbul have fought armies and earthquakes to preserve their home against all the odds.
Istanbul is a city that's been conquered, destroyed and rebuilt by both East and West. And as a result, in both its past and its present, it's a uniquely cosmopolitan melting pot of cultures. And my hope for the future is that whatever grand shifts in power between East and West there may be, Istanbul is allowed to keep its unique personality.